Hello, and how's it going, everyone? My name is Royal, and I am back again with another recap and breakdown. This time I'll be covering the latest episode of The Owl House. This episode had lots of surprises, tons of new mysteries, and some major reveals that will rocket us into the end of the season. So without further ado, let's get into this week's episode of The Owl House, Hollow Mind. In this episode, King, Luce, and Ida head to the night market for magic wool to repair Luce's damaged cape, but are disappointed to find out that in the weeks since their encounter with the Emperor, he's seriously been cracking down on the practice of wild magic. More and more witches are joining covens out of fear of the Emperor's wrath, and the witches at the night market are no longer willing to conduct business with Ida out of fear of harsh punishment.
The Titan punishes those who aid wild witches. I can't have you here.
Seeing the fear spread through Bonesborough reinvigorates Luce's mission to expose Belos's evil plans, but King reminds her that they won't be able to convince anyone if they don't have any proof. In a convenient turn of events, the traitors from the main 9 covens, Rain, Darius, and the newly revealed saboteur, Eberwolf, are at the night market to conduct a spell to invade Belos's mind, much in the same way Luce entered Willow's. Luce happens to see Hunter at the night market and pursues him in search for answers, but the two get wrapped up into the mind spell and end up transported into Belos's mind instead. Ida quickly realizes that Luce has gone missing and rushes home to replicate the potion used in the spell, knowing that they don't have long before Belos's mind starts to fight back. Inside Belos's mind, they find a beautiful hall full of tapestries depicting the heroic deeds of Belos, but it's quickly shown to be a facade, guarded by the inner Belos and a child who seems intrigued by Luce and Hunter's presence. After fleeing from the inner Belos, they tear through the walls of the lie and find themselves in the depths of Belos's true mind. There, they enter several memories depicting Belos's evil rise to power and his promises to share what he calls the 9 hues of the healing light, and his evil and horrifying schemes such as faking deadly wild witch attacks and experimenting with dangerous sigil spells. In what is perhaps the most important of these memories, we get our first real glimpse of the Collector, who appears as a childlike living shadow dancing across the walls of the palace, with a disturbing appetite for destruction and a whimsical appreciation for Belos's malice. Hunter, finally starting to see the Emperor for the evil he truly is disturbed to see the shattered masks and torn cloaks of all of the former Golden Guards. The two continue running through Belos's mind, attempting to flee the inner Belos until they're nearly caught in a trap set by the child. In a shocking turn, it's revealed that the child is the true inner Belos, and the monstrous creature chasing them was actually the mangled, tortured mass of all of the palisman Belos had consumed across hundreds of years. Belos, finally revealed, thanks Luce and Hunter for distracting the beast long enough for him to seal it away, admitting that he loathes the side effects of consuming the souls, but that it was the only way for him to gain his power. Luce, disgusted by getting a front row seat to Belos's actions, decries him, but Belos reveals that she too was fooled into serving him, showing Luce that his true identity is none other than Philip Wittebane. Luce is horrified that another human could be responsible for so much pain and destruction, but Belos says that he's simply doing his job as a witch hunter and that it was necessary to rid humanity of evil. Belos, finally free from the beast, laments that Hunter discovered the truth because, according to him, out of all of the Grimwalkers, he looked the most like his old friend. Belos fiercely attacks Luce and Hunter, but the two are whisked away by the return spell, secretly donated by the same saboteurs from earlier, and Luce and Hunter find themselves back in the Owl House. Hunter is traumatized by the revelations of Belos's true nature, and despite an offer from Luce to stay with them, he runs away in horror. Alright, so much happened in this episode, it's kind of hard to even pick a place to start, but I think the most logical place to start is one of the most major revelations in the episode, even though it wasn't much of a surprise. I think it's very important for the lore, and that is, of course, that Belos has confirmed that he is indeed Philip. Now, Elsewhere and Elsewin pretty much spelled this out already, so I don't think anybody is really too surprised, but I think it's still a really important moment, and that's for 2 reasons. The first is that now that we've finally settled the question about Belos's true identity, we can start to explore more questions and theories about his past and his motivations. And no, as hilarious as it might be, I really don't think his crusade against witches started solely from Lilith's righteous right hook,
you hateable sorceress!
Although it certainly didn't help. Instead, I have a strong feeling that his mysterious brother has a lot to do with his descent into madness and evil, and now that we know who Belos is, hopefully we can start to learn more about his brother as well. I think the idea that Belos is, at his core, a witch hunter is actually a lot more significant than the show was letting on in the moment. It sort of implies that Belos was a witch hunter before coming to the Isles, and that he had some knowledge of witches even in the human realm. And I'll admit that I honestly thought throughout the first half of the episode that there really might be something to what Hunter was saying about the child Belos representing his innocence, or maybe a lingering shred of his humanity or goodness that's being suffocated by his rage and wrath and dependence on dark magic. But by the end of the episode, it became pretty clear that Belos is just pure evil at this point and needs to be stopped. I was wondering for a long time about a possible redemption for Belos, and while at this point I think it's pretty unlikely, which is actually kind of fine with me because I think the whole villain getting a redemption at the end trope is kind of played out at this point, especially for shows like this. I think it's still worth exploring the tragic life he most likely lived before he assumed the name Belos. Anyway, back to the big reveal. I think the other reason that this is such an important moment is that now Luce knows the truth. Luce is so much more than the main character of the show, she's also the show's moral center. Luce has such a strong sense of right and wrong and good and evil, and now that she knows that Philip is a human, she's gonna have to come to terms with the fact that not only are humans capable of such evil, but that there seems to be some kind of conflict between the human and demon realms, and that she's caught right in the middle. Now that Luce knows this conflict between the two realms is at the core of pretty much everything we've seen in the series so far, and that she's sort of got a place on both sides of the conflict. We already knew that Luce was feeling very skeptical about her ability to balance her connections between both realms. This seems like she might even have the realization that it's impossible or dangerous considering the two sides are capable of this kind of war. Luce obviously has a lot of soul searching to do as she prepares for the fight against Belos, but I honestly think it'll be her most important arc yet. Moving right along, this episode also had the pretty surprising reveal that Eberwolf is also a traitor to the Emperor and is working with Darius and Rain. I've always really liked Eberwolf. I actually really like all of the Coven heads except for maybe one obvious exception. Although I can't wait until the rest are officially introduced, so it's exciting to know that Eber will play a bigger part in the mission to come, and I really love their quote-unquote friendship with Darius. It seems like a love-hate relationship between the two of them, but they're honestly really hilarious together, and I think this is setting up for an amazing showdown between the witches that are still loyal to the Emperor and those that are rebelling against his rule. We also got explicit confirmation in this episode that Hunter is in fact a Grimwalker, which is something we've had theories about for a long time, and in my opinion, the magenta eyes kind of were a dead giveaway. It seems obvious at this point that a Grimwalker is just an artificial life form created by magic and a bunch of gross monster parts. This episode did provide the new information that Hunter is actually modeled after a real person, although Belos only said it was a quote-unquote old friend. I personally think that Hunter is based on Belos' missing brother, as I kind of discussed early on, but I want to explore this topic in another video, so I'll probably save that for a dedicated video. I'm eager to see how Hunter copes with the knowledge that not only has he been serving a murderous tyrant, but that he himself is just a disposable, animated corpse created solely to do his bidding. Man, that dude is going to need some serious therapy after this episode, but I am really excited to see him join the Owl House crew. The last thing I want to talk about in this episode is the most exciting, terrifying, and bizarre part, and that is, of course, the reveal of the Collector. Our first look at the Collector was this weird, shadowy, cowled figure from Knock Knock Knockin' on Hootie's door. And it's not clear if this was an old design or maybe a disguise or like their true form, but it looks absolutely nothing like this version, which is fine with me because this new evil Prismo version of the Collector is awesome. The voice is the most perfect blend of sinister and childlike, the animations are just mwah. But my absolute favorite part of this reveal is the Collector's love for destruction and death. I mean, I thought Belos was bad, but this thing makes Belos look like a damn saint. It really feels like they're setting up the Collector to be the final villain of the series, rather than Belos himself. The Collector seems to have a deep relationship with the Titan, and he explains in his cute little song that he's actually trapped under its bones. So it could be that Belos' claim to be able to speak to the Titan could actually have some truth to it, since perhaps he can truly speak to the Titan through the Collector. If the Collector wants Belos to free him by the mass murder of the people of the Isles and by bathing the realm in the 9 colors of the healing light, I'm absolutely terrified to think about what the Collector's true power and form will be once he's unleashed. Somehow this show is about to get even darker, and I don't know if I can handle it. Some last things I wanted to touch on before I wrap this one up. For starters, I absolutely love that Luce is teaching King to speak Spanish.
Hable más lento, por favor? Aw, you remembered your lesson.
It's really adorable that Amity is also learning, so I can't wait for Luce to share more about her world and her culture as the series goes on. And I also really love how receptive everyone is to learning about human culture and Luce's home life. I think it's just really sweet and adorable. I'm also a big fan of the relationship between Hunter and his palisman. It's really nice to see a more vulnerable side of Hunter like we did with him and Willow, and the fact that he tells his palisman over the phone that he loves him is amazing, and I would die for them both.
Wait! I'll be home soon, Flapjack. Stay safe. I love you. Over and out. Aww.
So yeah, a lot happened in this episode, and I hope I didn't skip over anything super major, but if I have to make a part 2, I totally will. I can't believe we're only 5 episodes away before the finale, and considering this is the last full season of the series, it's honestly kind of hard not to get sad about how close we are to the finale. But I think it's really impressive how the Owl House crew has continued to make amazing episodes and make it not feel rushed, because clearly they were rushed and they are really making an incredible story, and I really have all the faith in the world that it's going to end on a really high note. Anyway, that's enough rambling for me. What did you guys think of the episode? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did it kill any of your theories or prove them right? Let me know down in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Be sure to subscribe for more Owl House content, and I will see you guys in the next one.